On this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast, don't be a Jerry.
Bang a fairy. Let's do this.
Welcome to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. I'm Diana.
And I am Liz. You're a dungeon master.
And this week we're going to talk Season 8, Episode 11, A LARP and the Real Girl.
Hooray! We're finally out of the whatever the fuck this first part of the season was. And we're into the good shit again. Thank you, baby. Whatever deity you do or do not, whatever. Thank you, writers. Thank you, yes. Robbie Thompson, who wrote this one, for getting us here. So before we get into that, what have you? Hey, Diana, you see any bands?
Just a couple.
What was it? What was it? What just happened in Austin that makes everybody else run away?
Yeah, it was South by Southwest was in Austin, and to be fair, I guess, I did not attend a single official South by Southwest event. I was, however, at Luck Reunion at Willie's Ranch in Spicewood, Texas. And then
here, let me get that name. You just let's pick that name up that you dropped.
Willie Nelson's Ranch.
And you also saw Willie Nelson and Kermit.
I did see Willie Nelson and Kermit the Frog sing a duet to Rainbow Connection.
It's just epic. And it really sucks. It's not the first time you've seen that, so whatever.
It's not the first time I've seen Kermit, and it's not the first time I've seen Willie. It's the first time I've seen them together.
Well, who did you... Yeah, I know. Okay, anyways.
He was with... Kermit was with Jim James from My Morning Jacket when I saw him before. Yeah, but anyway, so that was cool. And then, it was a great day of live music. Thank God the rain held off. It was supposed to look real nasty weather, but I was outside all day. And then Friday, ran around Austin. I went to about 4 different events on Friday. But it was cool. Saw a lot of great music, a lot of friends and music industry friends and things like that. So it was a really great day. I got 8 gazillion steps over those 2 days, and my back and my feet and my legs were very, very are very, very tired. And yeah, it was a good time though. I had fun. I had a lot of fun.
Good.
I'm still tired.
Yeah, well, it's an ass whip, but you did it. You survived South by once again.
Yeah, it was there's some
Nobody
of those,
puked
South
on
by
your feet,
activities I've done.
So
No.
I think it's a win.
There's a lot of free booze. It's very fascinating at these events. But yeah, no, I did not get puked on in any way, shape, or form, nor did I puke.
Yeah, so
I feel that's a big win.
I think
across
that's a
the
win.
board.
I think you
and
won
great
South
music.
by. Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. So yeah, no, it's good stuff. I feel like that's enough of a recap. I'm trying to think if there's anything.
I'm so tired. I don't know. I saw so much.
It was a lot. It was a whirlwind. I mean, 2 days. We drove in Thursday morning, left Saturday morning, and it was 10+ hour days, both days on feet, moving, seeing stuff, talking to people, all day, each day. But yeah. So yeah, how about you? What have you been up to?
So I got to play with some circus stuff this weekend and got to go to my first lyric class in a while, and it was super fun because it was a very different vibe than some of the more it was still circus oriented, but it was more like circus yoga, but it still wasn't yoga. We weren't doing breath work while we were doing it. We were doing a lot of spins. So I was doing, a lot more spins than I normally do. So, I did spin with on one foot and all sorts of things. So kept going around in circles. But then at the end, I finally did duo lyra. So like I was in the hoop and like the instructor was underneath me and I was like holding her while she was like flying in the air, and then like we reversed it and she was holding me while I wasn't flying in the air. Like one hand's were like on the hoops and then she just had feet. But then if you like look at it, it looks like you're holding the person all the way up, but they're holding your feet. Like it looks really cool. So it felt like super circusy. So it was great, nice. But arms really hurt.
Yeah. You did all the spinning and you didn't no throw up for you either?
I didn't throw up either. So I threw up today. Yay. But that's probably because I hurt my neck while I was doing that. I didn't like hurt my neck. I just probably in between doing these things, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna work on my core and like my lower abs are gonna be like super tight and they're gonna be great. And then that didn't really happen. Like, like there was some core work, I did some, but not like they're not. I didn't spend that whole break like getting really ripped in my abs or my arms, which was the plan. Okay. So I may have overcompensated and just strained my neck again. But I know. So It's okay. I broke down and took ibuprofen today, which I never do, but that's why you save your drugs from other surgeries. So if you don't use them then, and then like magic, I was like, oh, I feel much better now.
Yeah. Anti-inflammatories.
Crazy. Drugs work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But I can move my head side to side, and that's all that really matters.
It is.
So we can nod and talk about, yay, finally super excited to talk about an episode. And it is LARP and the Real Girl. And if you did not know, that is a play and a reference to the 2007 movie Lars and the Real Girl, starring Ryan Gosling, which apparently, according to the Supernatural Wiki, is about a guy who develops a relationship with a real doll. And I did not know that. Is that really what happens in that movie?
I think so.
Does he fuck one?
I don't know.
Like, what kind of relationship? Like,
what was Ken doing?
I don't know. Like, now that song is even weirder. Now that whole movie's weirder. I don't know. I don't want to see
with him being a doll. What the fuck? There's layers here. Layers. I was not prepared for it.
I do not care enough to watch the movie though.
I don't need
or even to look up a summary. I will just let it be a mystery forever. Who knows? Who will ever know what happened in that movie from 2007?
Familiar. And I'm sure that's what it is. So go ahead.
Yep. So this first aired January 23rd, 2013. And it was directed by the man who, once again, I will butcher your name. And it is Janos Fark. Sorry, sir. I don't know. But last time we saw him here, he was directing Mannequin and Mannequin 3, The Reckoning. That was in season 6. It was episode 14. It was really good. This one was also, that episode of Mannequin 3 was also written by Robbie Thompson, who did this. And, or unless that may have just been a copy paste error. That is quite possible. I don't know. We'll see. Once again, a mystery. It will never be solved. I will never, ever be able to figure out which of them directed or wrote what. Who will ever know? One thing though, and this was also from the wiki, this episode was nominated for a GLAAD Media Award in the Outstanding Individual Episode in a Series Without a Regular LGBT Character category in 2013, but it lost to an episode of Elementary, which is, I think, the Lucy Wu show. And I'm just like, well, Lucy Wu was getting, like, I would get gay with Lucy Wu. Like, and, so I can understand that. But who knows? Or was Jason Statham in that? Or is it someone who looked like Jason Statham?
No, I believe it was, oh, fuck. What?
Was it another bald guy who looked like him? Or why did I, like...
oh, gosh, I can see his face. The guy from Hackers.
Hack the Planet guy, or
yes, the main guy.
Oh, shit. Okay, sorry.
Johnny Lee Miller.
Yes.
Johnny Lee Miller, also from Train Spotting, obviously too.
Interesting. But... I would also be gay with him. So I mean,
absolutely. Are you fucking kidding me? I was so in love. So in
so
love.
So
Crash Overdrive.
You're so
Wasn't
old.
that what it was? I know.
So we start off with a recap. In our recap,
Yes.
who do we see?
And in our recap, we see Charlie.
Yes.
As well as we show kind of the farewells to Amelia and Benny.
Bye, Amelia. And
right.
we go from that into what is clearly a purveyor of the geeky arts.
Yeah, it's a nerd apartment. I mean, in a good way. I'm not being, that's not in a knock way. It's just
what?
It's a
I don't
apartment.
know what the fuck I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing. Look over there.
There's clearly like a Dungeons and Dragons type setup. And he's on the phone talking about like, no, but it's just a game. But Lance is on the other line, and Lance is pissed. On the other end of the phone, he's pissed. And they get off the phone, and he sends an angry, threatening text to this guy. We find his name is Ed. So Ed goes to sleep, and as he's sleeping, this weird this is a lame tree tattoo appeared on his arm.
See,
because I'm an asshole. Sorry.
See, my asshole comment was a tattoo is magically growing on his arm. I am so jealous. That looks so much more painless and much less time consuming. And it really is the time consuming part. Like, can someone just come? No, I was gonna say can't. Like my best friend,
you don't want to tattoo in your sleep. That'd be weird.
No, I don't trust my best friend to tattoo me while I sleep.
Well, either way, this appears on his arm, and then we get horse sounds.
And a whip
the coconuts? Do we have the coconuts? Anyways, and but then basically he gets invisibly quartered.
That whip. There was also whip cracking.
There was, and then he basically gets invisibly quartered, as I describe it.
Yeah, and you can see like his hands, like it's very well done. He's getting torn apart. The rope burns are like just going to his hands. It's awesome. So we cut from there to Baby going down the road. She's just hauling ass in the rain, which just makes me very uncomfortable.
To China Grove by the Doobie Brothers.
That also makes me very uncomfortable.
And basically, Sam is all stressed and bummed that they basically have this super powerful weapon against demons, but they can't use it yet. He's talking about the tablet. And Dean's like, look, we just got to be confident and have some patience. And Kevin, he'll figure it the fuck out. Chill. And Dean is we get a very mature, introspective Dean in this episode in some ways.
I feel like someone got Dean on the right meds.
Because
he's finally
let's talk. We've had a really difficult few weeks, bro. And maybe we just need to take a night off and have some fun. We used to do that. Remember when we used to have fun? It'd be so good for us. And Sam's just kind of like, and then his phone rings because Garth's calling.
Well, at first he thinks it's Kevin, but it is Garth. And they're just like, how did you find us? And you've been Garthed.
Because they all have GPS trackers. So Garth has been GPS tracking all the hunters so that he can assign them cases as they come in.
That is freaking smart.
Pretty smart.
Yeah.
Pretty smart. Because Dean admits it. Dean's like, yeah, Bobby would have done that. It's cool.
Yeah. They're like, think of how much money they're saving on tires. I'm very concerned about what they're doing to Baby. They're driving her like super fast, like while it's all wet and rainy. You're driving her back and forth across the country. Like, you need to take it easy.
Is she getting regular maintenance, sir?
I mean, I'm sure she is, but it's still like that's a lot. That's a lot on her. So they decide, yes, they are going to go to Farmington Hills, Michigan, to investigate the drawn and quartered case.
Yeah. So they get to the apartment and introduce themselves as FBI agents, Taggart and Rosewood, and they meet the sheriff.
So Taggart and Rosewood are from Beverly Hills Cop.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to go ahead and share now. It's a little bit of a spoiler. I love this sheriff. He's awesome.
Yeah. He has the biggest mustache goatee thing that I've ever seen.
It's a lot. But he is hilarious.
He's so great.
So, anyways, they kind of divide up to go search the apartment. Dean's a little cranky about being on a case and not going to have fun, by the way. But Sam's like, yeah, let's go check out this bloody bedroom, Sheriff. And they find out this is Ed Nelson. He was a 31 years old and worked in like insurance. And the sheriff makes a joke about how he lived alone, but you can tell from all the toys.
And that's where I have in my notes, shut up, stupid mustache sheriff. Your mustache is stupid. So Ed also has a bag of chainmail.
Mm-hmm. And they discuss the rope marks on the wrists and ankles, but no sign of rope. And Sam finds the detached arm and checks out the tattoo. And the sheriff goes on to talk about how the neighbor heard galloping horses. And, it could have been TV or a dream, or they could have just been, quote, high as balls, end quote.
Yes. And they find out that Ed's class call was from Lance, who was also a candidate for Incel Island. And he was just on the guy on the phone that was sending the text. And they were super weird. They were like, you shall bleed for your crimes against us. I am a mage.
Mage, yeah.
I shall destroy.
These kids today with their texting and murder, says the sheriff.
And I think the sheriff may also be high as balls.
I love him. All right. So they're going to go question Lance first. He's already at the police department. They're going to go question him before the cops. Whatever. Anyways. So
the sheriff just is like, keeps telling him like,
whatever.
He's just like, this is the FBI show now. And I think what's going on is the sheriff doesn't want to work and just like thinks the FBI is going to do his job for them. And he's just very happy with this. He's like, I don't want to do this anyways.
He's like, this case is bizarre. Fuck this. So Lance is shocked to find out that Ed's dead and that the FBI is there. And he is crying a lot. So Dean has literally to the point where Dean has to tell him how to breathe because he's not. And Jacob does a very terrible job trying to explain himself. But finally it comes out that those threatening texts were not actually from him. They were from his character, Gray Fox the Mystic, to Thorngren the Difficult, because they are characters in Moondor.
They're LARPers.
Mm-hmm. And they play every other weekend at the park. You can go check out their website for their current schedule if you would like. And they're about to have a big old kingdom battle thing.
Right. And so the reason that he wants him to go check out their website is because on there you can see that he was at the feast all night. So there is proof on this website. But you should know that he is a very powerful mage. And it was Lancelot to his Merlin.
And they were going to duel with wands and swords at dawn.
Because he thought that Ed had cheated to get into the Queen's Honor Guard, and you just can't do that. It's not fair. You can't cheat. And Ed starts crying again. And so Sam and Dean leave because they've had enough of this. And Dean's face, during this, is just all just very, very priceless. Just watching him trying to process what is going on is such great acting. So outside, Sam brings up Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to bring up Dungeons and Dragons because we're going to talk about, I'm going to say lore. We're just going to call it lore because I don't know. And we're going to talk about the time when Dungeons and Dragons became part of a moral crisis and a panic in America. And a lot of it centered around this kid. His name was James Dallas Egbert III. And so we're going back to when I was 2 years old and Diana was a sperm. Or I don't know where she was. She was an egg. I don't know what process or Dean. I don't know where she was, but she wasn't born yet. So I will say there's a trigger warning because there's going to be some suicide in this. But so if you don't want to hear about it, skip ahead. So James Dallas Egbert III. Does that name sound familiar to you at all?
Not really.
Okay. So he was a kid genius. And in the 70s and 80s, that was still a big thing. Being a child prodigy was huge back then. You would go on Donahue, all that type of shit, right? So he graduated from high school in 2 years. And he enrolled at Michigan State at the age of 14. And in August of 1979, at the age of 16, he vanished from his dorm. However, it was the late 70s and people were stupid then. And it took a few days for anybody to notice. And they also said, you know, like, hey, sometimes this kid goes off on his own and we don't see him for a couple of weeks. This is, you know, in mid-August, right? So kind of like in between semesters, but also...
This is a minor.
He's 16, right?
That's a minor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And his parents weren't there. His parents were in Dayton, Ohio. So, like, they have, like, this kid over there, and they don't even, like, he's missing for 5 days before anybody calls his parents and say, we don't know where your child is.
Or it has been for the last week.
Yeah. So there's basically an empty room. The bed and the wall was stripped of all the posters, except for a note on the desk that asked if his body was found that it be cremated. There was some poetry. There was a tarot deck. The cops took these tarot decks to a fortune teller to look for some meaning in their order, but didn't find any. There was also a corkboard that was leaning up against the wall, and that corkboard had 36 blue and white tacks in the shape of a square with a corner indented. So those are the things that were found in the room. The cops really didn't know what to make of this. And from what I can gather from what I was reading, I think the cops that were mainly investigating this sounds like the campus police, which I like. And every time I hear these stories where they're like the campus police had jurisdiction, I want to be like, no, like campus police should not be able to do these types of investigations. It just doesn't seem like in their wheelhouse, you know?
You typically wouldn't have the type of resources and equipment, I would think,
that a regular police department would have. So I'm not sure like what this was going, but so they brought in a bunch of psychics, and 3 of the 4 psychics that they were brought in said that Dallas was being held captive. And I also miss the time that we used to just bring in psychics all the time on police investigations.
I wonder if we still do and we just don't talk about it.
Maybe like they just like keep it more hush hush now, or they call them something else or a consultant. But yeah, so Dallas's parents brought in a private investigator because they didn't think that the police in Michigan were doing that great of a job. Maybe it was the psychics. I don't know. So they brought in this private investigator named William Deere, and he was actually Dallas based. And so he was a friend of Dallas's uncle. He was like, him and his team were based out of Irving, I think. And so they were brought in, and so Deere brings in 3 of his detectives, sends them up to Michigan while he's like getting things together. Dallas's mom is convinced that he's committed suicide because she pushed him too hard. And from Deere's book, The Dungeon Master, she said, I know he's dead. I killed him. I pushed him about his grades because I wanted him to be perfect, to have all A's. I never let up on him. There was a bar mitzvah he wanted to attend in Texas last weekend, but I told him he had to study. I guess I just don't know how to cope with a genius. I pushed him until he died. So his mom is feeling super guilty about like everything. So that's like, she's in a bad state, right?
Yeah.
And Dean's investigators, one of them whose name was, I shit you not, Dick Riddle, he had been interviewing people in Dallas's life, and he had learned that Dallas was most likely gay, at least bisexual, but he, never, not clear on that, but at least, more than likely gay. And Riddle spoke with Karen Coleman, a 19-year-old Coleman who Dallas called mother. And she told him that Dallas was a member of the Gay Council, an activist group on campus. She pointed them to another person on the council named Peggy, who said that she knew some people who could probably tell them what happened and maybe even where Dallas is. So to put some extra pressure on her, Riddle thought this was a great thing. He made a deal with a reporter for the Lansing State Journal to print a vague reference that the trail was now hot on the trail of the gays. And so he was going to show this to Peggy to pressure her in order to get him to reveal the sources, being like, I'm going to expose him.
Right.
So that's cool. not. That was sarcasm. So Riddle had also learned that Dallas had talked to Peggy constantly about the game Dungeons and Dragons. And she wasn't quite sure what it was, because this was 1979. And she had thought it had something to do with the Lord of the Rings. She wasn't sure, like, she said, I hadn't played it, but I know you can't play it if you're a dumbass. Like, you have to be smart to play this game. And so the headlines in the paper start saying like one of them says like missing genius tied to homosexual group. So the headlines, what they're saying about Dallas being missing starts changing, right? This narrative of what is going on with this missing kid in Michigan starts going, because by now at this point he goes missing like August 15th. Deer gets brought in like about like a week or so later. So like the thing about being tied to a homosexual group, that starts coming out like September 6th is where I first saw that, like in the newspapers. So they're already starting to like take this into like a weird direction, right? Yeah. And so the police spend a whole bunch of time searching the steam tunnels that are under the campus, like 600 to 800 hours. And Deer also searches these and finds indications that Dallas was there and probably trying to kill himself. Then some have theorized to lessen the pressure on the Egberts about these things that are coming out about Dallas possibly being gay, starts pushing the theory that Dallas was LARPing in the tunnels and like maybe something happened there, right? And the media just get a glob onto this idea of Dungeons and Dragons as part of this. And so like maybe that board that they found in the room, maybe that had something to do with Dungeons and Dragons. Or maybe Dallas was LARPing and he got stuck in his persona, right? Sergeant Bill Wardwell of the Michigan State University campus police said, police are trying to locate students who played the game with Egbert in hopes they might be able to interpret the bizarre diagram. I'd hate to say it's a secretive game, but you only get into it only by invitation. Those people just don't come forward. And yes, I understand that you don't want to let people know that you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, especially in 1979, but I don't think it was quite in the way that Egbert thought. So then the headlines in the newspaper start changing and they start saying things like cerebral game clue in search. Fantasy game may have claimed missing genius. Student fear dead, making fantasy real. And all these newspaper articles are filled with all of these wonderful explanations of how Dungeons and Dragons work. And if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, go read through these and have a laugh, because most of them are very, very wrong, or they're just like snippets of it, because basically they started going after the employees of Tactical Study Rules, which is the company that published the rule books. And like they had just had Gen Con the weekend that Dallas went missing, and that was their annual conference for D&D players. And so they have now gotten roped into this. They're getting all these calls from all the media. They're like, what the fuck is Dungeons and Dragons? And they're having to like, well, this is what it is. So like, well, why is it on a poster board? Like, well, you normally, like, why is he playing in a steam tunnel? Like, well, you play it on a table, but And then the headlines started saying things like missing genius reportedly seen at game playing cult convention. So, and did Dungeons Dragons swallow Dallas Egbert? So this kind of goes on, and finally, according to Deer, so this is according to William Deer, let's put that there. He speaks with a member of the Michigan State University Tolkien Fellowship, because of what Peggy was saying about it had something to do with Lord of the Rings. And so the Michigan State University Tolkien Fellowship do publish the Tolkien fanzine Yerk, which is Sindarin for orc, and I just love that. Yerk! And it's just their fancy magazine for Tolkien, and y'all are a level of nerds that I just adore. So, according to Deer, he talks with those nerds, and that leads to phone calls with Dallas, who is alive. So,
Okay.
William then has found him, and he is in New Orleans. He charters a flight from Dallas to Dallas. During this flight, the only reference he made to his disappearance was in reference to the Tolkien Fellowship group, saying they are a very far out group. So we end up learning, apparently, is that Dallas had tried indeed to take his own life in the tunnels, and he took Quaaludes and was unsuccessful in that attempt, and he woke up and he went and stayed with an older male admirer that, once all this came out, did not want to go public because it didn't look good that he had a 16-year-old with him, probably, is my guess. Yeah. And helped him to get down to New Orleans, where he got into hanging out. It was basically hiding out in the party scene down there, where he once again tried to take his life with cyanide, and he failed at that time. I wanted to remind you that he was 16 and 5'5" and 130 pounds, and if you were fucking partying with him, yeah, and somebody should have just done a better job looking out for his kid. Like, that's just like, it's so sad. And, you know, he does get him back home, and he ends up the transfer.
It's a child.
Yeah, and he transfers schools. He goes to a different university, but it doesn't end well. A year later, like a year of the day, he ends up passing away because he did commit suicide. And so William Deere goes on, like, I think he felt really bad about like what he did. I don't know who his role in that, but you know, just in general, the whole mess that became. He wrote the book called The Dungeon Master, but in 1981, Rona Jaffe wrote a book called Mazes and Monsters, which became a film of the same name, and that was actually Tom Hanks's first big movie. So this is, you know, like basically playing the role that was inspired by Dallas. And, you know, about like, you know, this is, you know, the Dungeons and Dragons like take over your mind and all that bullshit. So, but yeah, like the media, like it was really, you know, this is the beginning of the Satanic Panic, and just that time where like nobody really understood like why our kids are doing bad things, and what are we going to, you know, we're going to blame it on this weird book where they're pretending to be a demon. But in reality, you know, he was a kid, he was a child prodigy, he got thrown into an adult world probably way too young. He had a lot of problems with drugs and with his sexual identity, and probably the pressure from his parents, and it's this really shitty story. But at the same, you know, it's also just how crazy the media went over Dungeons and Dragons, and like you don't even have, like, in your mind, I know you can see the news shows, right? Like you can see all of them coming out.
Oh yeah, I can see the headlines now.
Yep. So this was one of the reasons that became a thing, and like why one of the reasons that Dungeons and Dragons became a cool, feared cult thing, because it'll drive you to, and just, you know, I feel really scary, really bad for Dallas, but yeah. Let your kids, let your kids play Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, he really enjoyed that world, and it was a good escape for him. And it was really weird is I don't play, role playing games that much because I'm not that much of a nerd. Sorry, love you guys. But I actually got a role playing game in the mail today because Strangers in a Tangled Wilderness, they put out an RPG that I backed their Kickstarter on, and it's all about, I think it's revolutionary anarchist world with witches and stuff, so that'll be fun. It's got like the artwork that came with it's really good, and some of the books. I'm super excited. I have a game to play, and that was me trying to turn the mood after that very sad story, but interesting story. And now we're going to go back into our sheriff's office, where I am really, really upset because their best strategy is they're going to check out the website of Moondor. And how do they do this, Diana? How do they get to this website of Moondor? They just walk up to a cop's computer,
random cop's computer,
and just
no password,
just type
no
it
permission,
away.
And they just walk up. Yeah, they just walk up to the computer and go to the website. No passwords, nothing.
My face go freeze like this. This is the face I was making when I watched it.
I'm sure. I even laughed at that. I was like, oh, yeah, this looks very, very secure, Sheriff. Very secure.
And, you know, he was like, I don't care. Like, I can just hear him saying something really, I wish I knew what the quippy thing he would say.
I know, me too. Well, these kids and their internet. Anyway, so they do see the footage of Lance at the feast from the night before. So we know that his alibi is legit, that he was not the one at Ed's apartment murdering him.
And these pictures look like medieval times, like
but party zone.
Yeah, like the Weekender, medieval times on a cruise. Do they do that? I bet there is a medieval. I bet there's a medieval crime. I bet there is.
Well, Dean's like, this actually looks kind of awesome. So they follow it. And at the end of this video is the promo vid for the Battle of the Kingdoms to determine who the next, whatever crown holder will be. But right now it is the current ruler, the Queen, Charlie.
Yeah, she is the Queen of Moons.
Yes. So we cut back to good old Lance in the interrogation room. His arm starts itching, and he gets another.
Don't scratch your scabby tattoo, dummy. That's rule number one. You don't scratch your scabby tattoo, no matter how much it itches.
And he starts coughing, and then he spits up a whole bunch of blood.
Yep.
He looks in the two-way mirror, and blood is pouring from his eyes and nose, and he yells, and he falls dead.
It's just great.
I have a comment. What if you were on the other side of that mirror and you get the blood? Because he coughs and it goes splat. That would have been so upsetting. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done. But I just like how the sheriff is just like, okay, y'all just need to,
here we go.
Y'all come see this. Y'all come watch this.
And he shows the surveillance footage of this all happening to Sam and Dean. He says, God forbid he was contagious. I'm going to go dip myself in hand sanitizer.
And it just reminds me, like, right when they're lifting some of the restrictions during the lockdown. And I went to the Island of Women or whatever it was in Mexico, and like when you get off a boat, like
Isla Mujeres,
yes, and you like walk through, they just like were spraying, like they're like, the things that spray water to like cool you down, like they were just spraying you with like sanitizer, like from head to foot, like as you walked into the island.
So gross.
And that's just what this reminds me of.
So gross and weird. But while they're watching the security footage, Sam notices the fucking tattoo, so now they got to go see the Queen. Ta-da! And so they arrive at the Battle of the Kingdoms at the park, which basically just looks like a Ren Fair on steroids in the middle of a city park.
I mean, what is Ren Fair but LARPing if you come down to it? Except there's
there's a lot more tourists at a Ren Fair.
Yes. This is a very, very internal thing. But yeah, it's a huge LARPing thing, and it is gigantic, and probably I don't even want to know who goes through to set this shit up, but so they're there in their Fed suits, and they see someone is being held in the stocks by Bultar the Furious.
Good old Bultar, which I missed his name at the beginning. I think I just call him like Squire or some shit throughout for my notes, so apologies in advance if I do that later, but. They try to introduce themselves to Bultar because they need someone to kind of show them around. And Bultar stops and describes himself as an interactive literaturist as opposed to a LARPer.
Yes, and there was also a Shadow Orc, and he was in a stock. And we'll need to remember him for later. So, and his teeth have fallen out. And that's where we also learn that within the LARPing world, that this is where the hold comes in. That you can step out of your gameplay by saying, in this case, hold.
So, Bultar yells hold. And he thinks that Sam and Dean are doing a genre mashup thing. And that there is a different day for that.
So they only do that every third month, and calls them out on their fake badges. And he knows very extensively what the FBI badge should look like.
Yeah. So he's like, cheap suits, fake badges, and explains how he knows their fucking badges are fake. And so there we go. Not this weekend, guys. Sorry. But if you want to join the Queen's Squires, her army could always use more in the ranks. So Dean's like, yeah, I want to see the queen. And he's like, nope, calendar's full, but she's overseeing the new squires on the pitch. So we cut to a sword battle between two knights. And then the queen takes off
the winner takes off the helmet, and it is very much in a shampoo commercial way. And it comes out, and it is Charlie, her glorious red hair, and it is Charlie Day.
Yeah. Charlie
Day. Oh my God. I just kept, sorry. I was thinking of Felicia Day. And
that's
Charlie
funny. Combined it. That's
Charlie
funny.
Day.
Well, I like Charlie Day too, but that's not the scene. So she has won against her knight, whatever, and she's going to start talking about their ranks and the battle. And by the way, these two guys are missing. But while she's in the middle of that, she sees Sam and Dean there. And she pauses because, oh shit, if they're there, nothing good can be coming of it. And so we cut to her tent where she is packing and is like, Charlie Bradbury died a year ago. My new name's Carrie. I'm the queen. I have a life. I don't want to lose this life. But if you're here, that means there's a monster here. So I must be a monster magnet, right?
Yes, and while she freaks out, if that's a thing, one thing that you should know is that her name is Carrie Heinlein. And so, according to Robbie Thompson, who wrote the last one, Charlie's aliases are always made up of a Stephen King character for her first name and the surname of a famous science fiction writer. So this one is Carrie from, the movie Carrie, and then Heinlein, which is Robert Heinlein, who wrote Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Well, she does not want her other arm to get broken or to get killed, so she's fucking out. And she says she's dropping her sword and walking off the stage. Bitches, have fun storming the castle.
And Dean gets her back by just being like, so Ad and Lance are not just missing, they're dead. And she's not a piece of shit. And she's like, all right, what's going on?
Yeah. So they ask her about the tattoo, and she's like, yeah, it's a Celtic magic symbol in my favorite video game. And they're like, finally, she's like, yeah, her army's been shrinking. There's been somebody else had both their ankles broken. 3 other people had hospital-worthy accidents. And they don't have any common enemies in real life. So it has to be in the game.
Yeah, and she said hospital-worthy accidents at home, and just kind of blows it off. And we'll get later, I'm going to bring that point up again. She's like, people had some accidents, but, no bigs. And so, but, hey, Shadow Orcs are D-bags, everyone's an enemy. Dean is, really into, her risk map.
Battle strategy.
That's got, you can, I guess they all represent actual types of things, and he's like, move your broadswords or whatever, nerd battle stuff.
Nerd battle stuff.
Or stabby, whatever armies do. Boom.
Or college. All right.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, maybe someone just took this too far. So maybe we need to get Charlie out of here and, and take it to herself. And Sam's like, yeah, but she's the one that knows this kingdom. So we probably kind of need her.
Yeah,
anyway,
and then Charlie kind of goes back and forth, and she's like, I want to leave, but the queen has to stay, and I'm tired of running because I'm boss girl.
And then Sam's phone rings, and it's the toxicology report on Lance, and he said it was clean, but his body showed signs of poison by belladonna. And both Dean and Charlie answer simultaneously.
The porn star?
No, not the porn star. Belladonna the poison. But they can't research because she can't have her laptop in her tent because of all the rules. But there's a tech tent, and so you can go there. And in this cut, when we go talk about the tech tent, you see the epic portrait of Charlie as the queen above her bed in her tent.
You want that, don't you?
I want of me, yeah. Not of her.
Yeah, no. I want one of me, but maybe as the enchantress. I would like me as an enchantress, with a crystal ball, maybe some lightning coming out of my fingers. Anyway.
I'm sure you're
subjugating someone.
For you.
I mean, what? I'm sorry. Anyway, so Sam goes to go research and tells him to go canvassing.
Yes, and Dean has to change into the appropriate attire though for this, and he is not bummed.
Nope. So Sam goes through the gateway into the future, and this is the only time travel isn't stupid.
Gateway to the future in the tech tent, and there's like 8 terminals. All of them are full except for one, and he sits next to this really blonde chick, and basically she helps him out a little bit. Yeah, you need to create your account so you can access the player list, and this is Galandria the Wicked,
aka Maria.
Yeah, and so in the meantime, Dean and Charlie are going to go wander around.
No.
Before that, Charlie calls Dean out about the text to Sam. She straight up tells him it was a dick move. And Dean admits it was not his finest hour, which I think is good that he confesses that. And she's like, Sam was happy and had a chance at normalcy, but now you pulled him out of that to come back with you. And Dean's like, well, we just can't have attachments in our lives.
No. You can't make this voice right now because Dean is being awesome. This whole thing, you can't say that. Yeah, I won't let you do your yuck voice right now.
Not in the, you can't have attachments in their life, that whole thing. That's like a excuse thing, I think. I don't like that.
No, so he's also like, whatever he says right now is amazing because he's like putting on this armor, and each time he like puts on another piece of this chainmail thing, like he just gets infinitely hotter for like as he like steps further back in time, like, and then as he is basically saying, like, you can't afford attachments, you just have to let go. She asks if he broke up with someone. And I'm just like, yes, again.
I know.
Dean broke up with Vinny. So that's why, so he's hot. I am also proved right.
But he says no. So moving on, talking outside, she's like, look, yeah, no, I wasn't always into LARPing. I'm usually more of a tabletop type, but one of my friends got me into this. And, I kind of feel like a hero. So it's cool. It's good escapism.
Yeah, she's here for the chicks and for being queen. And then Dean tells her that out there in the real world that she is a hero, and it's so damn cute. My ovaries just exploded everywhere, and then I just got really confused about which of them I wanted to make out with. But it's just, it's just like I love this relationship between the two of them. I love seeing Dean talk to somebody at ease, and just like it's been like I feel like he hasn't talked to somebody like this since Joe. Right, it's just like all this. There's been so much tension and just and like honest, for the past few episodes, and this banter and just like I care about you and you're awesome. Like him lifting somebody up is just it's nice, and I've missed it.
It is, and then back in the tech tent, Sam is getting more help from Maria. And she still assumes that he's part of a genre mashup. But she starts recognizing some of the players that he's talking about. And this just makes no sense at all, because why is this the players database? And it shows all of their injuries. It's real weird.
No. They're case files. So the case files are, I'm assuming, are from supposed to be the sheriffs that he has got into, and that's why she's saying that it's genre mashup. Or the FBI had case files on these things because these are their crime injuries. So yes, it's dumb, but it's also dumb because like they show Phyllis and like. Maria's like, well, it looks gnarly, like she was hobbled, and the rest of them too. Like this, like Charlie earlier was this. She was like, they were hospital worthy incidents, and just like la 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 la. That chick's feet were like
mangled.
And
then this other guy, someone broke into his place and beat him with his own mace.
Yeah, like why are any of you still playing this game? Like, why are all of you not talking about this, right? Like, nobody is like, oh yeah, like, so-and-so got beat in the face with a mace. Like, I feel like something that would come up in the text chain.
Probably. So, either way, we've still cut back and forth a little bit. We've got, Charlie and Dean are asking people about the tattoo, and the hot elf hits on Charlie, and no one's mad at that. And Sam's like, hey, Maria, thanks for all this. But by the way, it looks like someone's targeting the Queen's people. And she's like, nah, 4 of those were the queen, but 2 of those are elves and 2 other of them are warriors. So not just the queen's people. So we've got Dean and Charlene are like, all right, the last thing we got to check with are the fucking Shadow Orcs. So let's go see them. But to get a hold of them, let's go talk to the orc in the stocks from the beginning.
Yep. And Sam has figured out that it is the Tree of Pain.
From Celtic Magic.
Which doesn't exist. And if you're tagged with it, you will be a victim of fairy magic. Yeah! Fairy magic! Woo! Fight the fairies!
So Charlie and Dean are like, all right, orc. And he's like, death to the queen and her manservant. And
usurper!
Dean taps him with his sword and he is very upset. But I like that Dean says to Charlie, he's like, no laptops, no Geneva Convention.
There's no rules in Bultar. Well, yeah.
Anyways, so Dean asks him if he's seen this tattoo. And he's like, yeah, of course. And he's like, oh, wait, never mind. But then he admits it's the Shadow King's family crest. So now, as viewers, we're like, oh, fuck, it's the Shadow King. Let's go. And so there we go.
And they're going to find him in the Black Hills, which is the forest behind the playground.
Yes. And Bultar is new, kind of intercepts Charlie and Dean. And she's like, oh, yeah, no, Dean's my handmaiden. And so let's go visit the orcs. But they both kind of want Charlie to go back to stay with Sam to be safe.
This is misogynistic crap.
This is...
I mean, I think, like, Charlie, I trust her more than I trust fucking Jerry. Like, if anyone, like, I would send back who I feel like would get their ass kicked, it would be Jerry. Anyway, so...
But Dean decides it's a good idea to give Charlie his phone and send her back to go find Sam. And they're going to go take care of the Shadow Dorks, as he calls them. And, So, Charlie's wandering through the woods by herself, which seems like a way less safe option than anything else they were going to do.
Like, okay, instead of us walking with you, why don't you go off by yourself through the woods? This seems fine. And while she's doing this, she sees someone's following her, and there's a guy in a big cloak, and he throws a black beanbag at her, and he misses.
And she ducks, and she throws her own beanbag at him and says, "Dark magic!" And his bad teeth fall out. He has bad fake teeth, but he's like runs off injured. But then she turns and there's another cloaked figure, but much larger and taller with a deer head or a stag head.
Yeah, they start calling it a stag skull, which I was calling it a deer skull, but stag skull is much more alliterative, so I'm going to call it a stag skull.
Stag skull, yeah. And so she tries to throw her beanbag at that and say, "Dark magic," but nothing happens.
With much less authority. Dark magic. No.
So Dean and Bultar, aka Jerry, never find the Shadow Orcs and go back to the Queen's camp. And they're like, good old Bultar's like, why don't we just use that orc from the stocks to draw them out as bait for prisoner exchange? And Dean's like, cool, I like this idea. Let's do it. Sam approaches them and is like, hey, guess what? I figured out what the tree is. And Dean's like, yeah, we kind of know too, but we got to figure it out. And oh, by the way, now we all just realized that Charlie is not here. Yep. Oopsies.
And Sam has told Dean that they're using fairy magic. Fight the fairies.
So they're trying to call Dean's phone to get a hold of her, but of course not answering. She is slowly waking up in a bed in an adorable cottage.
Right? Like, or whatever. There's a canopy bed, there's a fire, there's candles. Like, I would get this house an Airbnb. I feel like this is like one of those yurts that you can charge $300 for on Airbnb. I'd be like,
for sure.
I was like, all right, I'll pay this much for a yurt. Makes sense.
Okay. For this one, you're in.
For this yurt.
Well, she wakes up. The stag-headed creature is standing over there. And she like, I'm going to introduce myself and I'm going to go. Bye. And she goes out the door and then it brings her back in the other door immediately. This sounds, and like they do this effect on shows sometimes as a magic effect. It sounds very, very frustrating and stressful.
Yeah. It's meant to
and
be.
it does it over and over again, trying to go out the door, and it pops her back in the other side of the room.
Yep.
I don't like it.
So she tries to bargain, and the monster approaches her, and as she's whimpering, the mask is removed, and it's not a monster. It's a pretty girl, and she only wants her life back.
And they both just want their life back.
Charlie's.
I did like a line in here that said, "I'm not really a queen. I'm just an IT girl standing in front of a monster, asking it not to kill her."
Yep, I could say that line one day. So Charlie is smitten, and then we cut back to Sam and Dean and Bultar and the orc, and they're all walking through the forest.
Yeah, and they're going to negotiate this prisoner exchange, but Bultar wants to run shit. He's already got stuff under control because first he has to make an announcement about the Pee Wee League soccer game in the morning. And they don't want to freak out the mundanes.
You can't freak out the muggles. And then Dean just takes things way too far.
Dean just says, "Fuck this shit," and pulls his pistol. It's so hilarious. The Shadow King's shitting himself. Funny enough, the Shadow King's an attorney in real life.
Yeah, his name is Max Hilby, and he's not going to press charges if you let him go.
But he tells a story about how he does have this tree on the chest of his uniform, but he got sick last month after the tattoo appeared on his arm. And he just decided it looked cool after the dermatologist told him it was all right.
Yeah, after he found out it wasn't malignant, I was going to make it into my crest.
Mm-hmm. So Dean kind of anyways, he runs off. The fucking Shadow Orcs are not the Shadow King, and the Shadow Orcs are not the bad guys, and they run off.
Thankfully, everyone's just going to let this, because apparently Moondor, we just let shit slide.
Apparently so. So, and this orc that was in the stocks is very concerned that about the queen really being in danger. And it's like, by the way, I noticed something odd by the creek. There was this weird tent that was kind of creepy. And he's being helpful because he has an epic crush on the queen.
And he's so sweet. Poor Monty. And I feel for him. This poor sad orc. You snork.
Yeah, he doesn't really get it. Snork. He doesn't really get it when Dean tells him that he's not her type.
And she's not into orcs. She's just not. She's into, but what she is into is fairies. Swoon.
So we find out that in the cabin tent thing with Charlie is Gilda, and she is telling Charlie who she is. It's a fairy, and Charlie is totally into that, and that she was summoned by a spell by some guy who's her master to do his bidding, and he has her hurting people. She doesn't know why, and it started small at first, but now she's killed 2 people. She doesn't like it, and this is bizarre. And you've got to destroy her master's book of magic to break the spell. So now Charlie's like, "I'm going to rescue you."
Yeah, and she also tries to explain LARPing to Gilda, and apparently LARPing isn't a concept that fairies really understand. And so Charlie Bradbury is here to rescue her, but in the forest, Sam and Dean can't shake Bultar.
No. And he's just like, "Nope, you're just a handmaiden, and a time traveler, so whatever." So they find this little canvas tent that looks real shitty, and they go in, and inside it is the fantastic cabin tent that Charlie was in. And bow chicka bow wow.
Charlie's just making out with Gilda.
Yeah, they are. And Gilda outs Bultar here as her master.
Oh, Jerry.
So, shit. Jerry's just the fucking asshole, apparently.
Not really that surprised. Jerry, you kind of look like a tool.
Yeah. So Sam and Dean are pointing guns at him, but he's like, "There's no guns in Moondor," and makes Gilda poof their pistols into feathers.
Yeah, he poofed their pistols.
Poof their pistols? That's what she did.
That's what she did. Yeah, they did. And they go into chicken feathers, but you know they're chicken feathers because they block.
Yes. It's good. I like it. I appreciate it. And I start calling Bultar Bolty around here. So Bolty's man. Bolty's mad.
See, and I just call him Jerry because I feel like it's more infuriating to him because he's like, my name is Bultar the Furious. So I just want like Jerry.
Yeah. So his whole plan was he wanted to get rid of the competition and convince the queen that he should be the king until Sam and Dean showed up. And he's mad because and the reason all these other people got hurt was because they got honor guard and they got close to the queen by paying off other players with real money, not Moondor currency, which is cheating. But somehow in his head, using magic isn't cheating because there's magic in Moondor.
Yep, that's fine. And he breaks down like all little boys eventually do.
Yeah, because Charlie's like, it's only a game. He's like, no, it's not a game. It's Moondor. That's all that matters.
Well, and he came there to be different, and he still wasn't cool in Moondor. And it's just a classic, just, I hate these fucking boys. That's why I kick you in the balls. So, and he wants to know, would a loser track down a book of real spells and compel a fairy to do his bidding?
And Dean asks where he got the book of spells.
From eBay.
So yeah, loser. Yes.
All
right.
There's nothing wrong with buying books with spells from eBay.
There's not, but that doesn't make
it does not make you cool. It does not make you cool. I very much know that I am not cool buying books with spells.
I'm not saying you aren't cool for it. I'm just saying that that's not how you become more powerful in Moondor.
I have also never tried to compel a fairy to do my bidding. Legal. Why not? Allegedly. So.
Allegedly. All right.
Sam tries to talk him down.
Yeah, that's not going to work. Bolty's real unhinged.
He just wants to be crazy.
Yeah. And he's like, so I'm just going to ask Gilda to get rid of Sam and Dean and wipe Charlie's memory so I can do it all. Anyways, so Gilda, ferry me a sword. And so she does. I don't know. Either way, we get a fight. Dean and Jerry / Bolty are fighting. Gilda and Charlie are chilling on the bed, kind of. And Sam is trapped by a knight suit of armor on the wall.
Yeah.
But in the midst of the fight, the book of spells falls to the ground, and Charlie gets to be the fucking hero and goes to grab the book and says, hey, Jerry, I'm the one who saves damsels in distress around here, and stabs the book.
Yeah, it wasn't the basilisk fang. I don't know why stab it. Whatever. Okay, so she stabs the book, and that destroys his hold on Gilda.
Yes, and and Dean's able to knock Jerry out
because he's back to Jerry power.
Yeah, and so Gilda's like, oh, I'm so glad you saved me. I'm going to go back to my fucking forest and I'm going to take Jerry with me to face the fairy tribunal because fuck that shit. So let's make out real fast.
I want to see the fairy tribunal.
I know you do.
So he gets pooped away. And they're gone. And we go back.
Is there like not a missing persons case? Like, wouldn't there be like a major investigation at this point, though, when 2 people involved in Moondor are now fucking dead under mysterious circumstances? You had 8 mysterious injuries, and now this other dude just disappeared.
You met the sheriff.
That's true. Never mind. He just assumes they're all
they're all high as balls. These kids and their murder.
So good. Texts and murders. All right. Oh, I love it so much. I'm sorry. I need more of him.
Yeah, he was great.
Great comic relief. Okay. All right. So Sam, Dean, and Charlie are walking and talking.
And it's really like, weird because Sam and Dean have changed back into their normal clothes, but Charlie's still in her queen fighting attire. It's just,
well, she's been in that since she got like snatched up.
So I don't know. It's just weird that she didn't change
because
clothes.
She decided she's not going to leave. She's going to fight. She's going to stay and have her battle, even if she's going to lose, because she doesn't want to run and disappear anymore. She's going to stick around.
Anyway, because it seems
maybe
like
she's trying to be
realistic.
Anyways, okay. So she's good. She's just bummed that they blocked her from hooking up with a fairy.
From banging a fairy, which just sounds better.
No.
You blocked me from banging a fairy and about to lose my crown in battle thanks to my army being decimated.
Smell you later, bitches. But Dean and Sam are going to discuss what's next. And they're like, well, no fun.
And Dean is just being really sweet to him. And it's really nice. Yeah. And then Sam's really nice to him. And it just hugs him like, I like it when you're not fighting. And you're not being stupid. It's just, oh, you're together. And you got Charlie.
They're going to be together. And they're going to have fun together.
They are. And how are they going to have fun?
They are suiting up to fight in Charlie's army in Moondor.
And Sam's hair has finally reached the pinnacle of stupid and it's made its way into a ponytail. This was a thing that was commented on all the boards. This was the culmination of all things that they knew it was coming and we knew it was coming and it's here. It's in a ponytail.
That's hilarious. Well, Dean gets to give a Braveheart speech.
He does. He gives the Braveheart speech.
The Braveheart speech, I should say. And the ending of this episode is dedicated to the fallen soldiers who helped the Queen win the battle.
To the men, women, elves, demigods, magi, druids, and chamber pot servants who gave their lives fighting and winning for the Queen of Moons in the Battle of the Kingdoms. So,
all right,
we have some people in the room.
Casting couch. It's the casting couch. Were they on that show that time with that guy? La 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 la.
We do have some casting to do. So first, Jerry, aka Bultar the Furious, was played by Hank Harris. He was Isaac in the movie Mercury Rising. He's been in single episodes of shows like Seventh Heaven, X-Files, Star Trek, Enterprise, Nip Tuck, CSI New York, Ghost Whisperer, Castle, Grimm, and Rizzoli and Isles. And then he was a reoccurring character as Dr. Henry Jekyll in Once Upon a Time. Gilda, our fairy, was played by Tiffany DuPont. She was Beth in the movie Cheaper by the Dozen. She's been in episodes of CSI, Melrose Place, 90210, NCIS, Big Bang Theory, Castle, and American Horror Stories. She is also a reoccurring character on 911 named Allie. Our sheriff, who did have a name, Jake Miller, was played by Don Thompson. He has a pretty long career. He goes back to 21 Jump Street, MacGyver, X-Files, Smallville, and Stargate. He was on all of those multiple times. He was Wally in the movie Slither. He was a reoccurring character in Battlestar Galactica, Detective Gallagher in The Watchmen, and Al O'Hara in the movie Horns. Lance was played by Haig Sutherland. He was Father Poe in The Magicians, and he was a single episode of Lucifer. He was also in the movie Slither as well, and was in Halloween Resurrection, and Finney is his character name in the newer TV show called Lucky Hank. Ed was played by Shaughnessy Redden, who's been in episodes of Smallville, Fringe, Arrow, and Creepshow, the new series that they've got coming out. Maria, aka Galandria, was played by Andrea Brooks. She was a waitress in Percy Jackson and the Olympians. She's been in episodes of Hellcats, iZombie, Once Upon a Time. A lot of Hallmark, but she also plays Eve / Hope in Supergirl, which is like 46 characters, like a regular, or 46 episodes, a regular character. And good old Max Hilby, our Shadow King, was played by Michael Teagan. He was also our suicidal teddy bear in a previous episode of Supernatural, and has been in episodes of Smallville, Fringe, Once Upon a Time. He was in Tron Legacy, and weirdly a lot of like sequel dog movies. So if it's like a TV movie or a movie with like following pets, but like the second one, he's in a lot of those.
It's nice.
Yeah. Pretty big, a lot of cast in this one. So a lot of cast that we saw and interacted with. So
yeah, it was a good. There was a good supporting group of people here, and so obviously, well, I mean, we got Charlie back. So, but I prepped you for none of this beyond, like I just said, there's some epic stuff coming. So what did you think?
That's true. It was super fun. Super fun. We all like Charlie. It adds a really good twist. Her character just adds a really good twist and spirit to the show. Makes it very irreverent. And we've been so fucking serious for so many episodes lately. I think we needed that. So I think it was a nice palate cleanser, if you will. I do, as much as I like Sam and Dean being nice to each other, it feels very abrupt. So I feel like if we're going to have this much of a change in attitude, we needed a little bit of transition or...
They shared, Sam brought Dean snacks. Everything is fine. Sam brought snacks.
No. Anyway.
Snacks fix everything. I'm sorry. If you bring me a snack, we're pretty much all good. You'd have to do some pretty fucked up shit for a snack not to fix it.
Damn.
Then you just have to go for like the bigger snacks. There's like some gold belly times, But... Okay, yeah. So there's that abruptness, but also just like I don't like conflict, and I'm tired of the fighting.
No, it's been annoying as fuck. And they're being shitty to each other about it. Yeah. That's the bigger problem for me. It wasn't that they were fighting, it's that they were being like shitty. Like the dick move, like even
it was very passive move during the sex. I feel like they're all things that I learned in like my therapy about like defense mechanisms. I feel like they each had like their defense mechanisms that were coming out, like, displacement,
I guess. Well, all I know is that they were being total dicks to each other about these things. Yeah, like, well, it's like Sam was going hard after Benny because he was jealous, and then Dean's going like hard about like being shitty, like manipulating Sam about the Amelia stuff. It's just fucking shitty. Yeah, just shitty. And so,
in a real weird way to be like after you lost your brother for a year. Yes, but this is probably because you can't process it. I don't know.
I guess
your emotional intelligence needs some work. I don't know. But I'm just glad we got to have some LARPing. I love it when
it was funny.
We get to go to
good comment.
It was a good. I feel like it was. They didn't. I feel like it wasn't shitting on LARPing. Like you could have easily taken this away to just be like mocking that world completely, right? And I feel like it was done with love.
Yeah, I mean, it poked fun, but it didn't mock.
Like, it feels like it poked fun in a way in a person who understood why, right?
Yeah, because if you take yourself too seriously doing that shit, then you turn into Jerry. Don't be a Jerry.
Don't be a Jerry.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Be a fairy. Don't be a Jerry.
Be a fairy. Don't
Bang
be a
Jerry. Bang a fairy. Don't be a Jerry.
They can go a lot of different ways.
They can go so many ways. All right. On that, we liked an episode. No, we didn't like the others.
It wasn't, but not Bummersville.
It was not. It was episodes since Bummersville. Our count for the first time in a while is back to 0.
Yeah.
Will that continue with the next week? Stay tuned and find out. Bubbling kids. I don't know in this. For sure.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Be a Dick production. Meow.
Devil's Trap Podcast is part of the Ship It Studios podcast network. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Devil's Trap Podcast, Twitter at Devil's Trap Pod, or you can email us at devilstrap@devilstrappodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave reviews, and share with all your friends. We're at all your favorite podcast outlets and at devilstrappodcast.com. I'm Babe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.